a criminal that was protected by everyone at the top. The elites protected this man so much that he even committed suicide, or so it seems. Maybe that was also a way of protection as well.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Incredibly high-profile people doing horrendous things. People are going to go to jail. Where? Right. Nothing. What did they do?
A man who committed crimes that would generally land people in life parole, or maybe 20 years plus, depending on the country rules and state laws. Child sex trafficking. Those are the crimes for this man, according to reports and witnesses and victims and records. Child sex trafficking is recruiting, transporting, or harboring minors for sexual purposes.
This is the story of a man who should have been stopped decades ago. A man accused by dozens of victims. A man investigated, arrested, and released again and again. A man who moved freely among presidents, billionaires, royalty, and intelligence-linked figures. And when it finally looked like justice was unavoidable, he died. So here is the question that refuses to disappear. How did one man commit crimes in plain sight for decades and never lose protection? Who protected him? Why did prosecutors look away? Why were victims silenced? And why, even now, do so many answers remain sealed? This is not a conspiracy story. This is a story of documented failures, official records, and power protecting itself. This is the story of Jeffrey Epstein.
The problem with Jeffrey Epstein is not that he committed crimes. It is that those crimes were known. Not rumored, not suspected, known. For decades, allegations followed him across cities, countries, and institutions. Teenage girls described the same abuse. Police departments logged the same complaints. Prosecutors reviewed the same evidence. And still, nothing stopped him. Epstein did not evade the system. He moved inside it. He socialized openly with presidents, billionaires, royalty, scientists, and media executives. He traveled internationally despite being accused of trafficking minors. He accumulated wealth without a clear source. And when law enforcement finally closed in, the consequences were quietly reduced. So this story does not ask, what did Jeffrey Epstein do? That record already exists. This story asks something far more uncomfortable. How did one man generate this much evidence and still remain protected? Who intervened and why? And what does that say about the systems meant to prevent this? This is not a conspiracy story. It is a documentation story. And by the end, every question raised here will be answered.
Jeffrey Edward Epstein was born in 1953 in Brooklyn, New York. Middle-class upbringing, no inherited wealth, no elite family connections. There is nothing in his early life that explains what comes next. By his late 20s, Epstein is teaching at the Dalton School, one of New York's most exclusive private institutions, despite lacking a college degree. Former colleagues later describe him as intelligent, confident, and unusually connected for someone his age. He leaves teaching abruptly and enters finance. From that point forward, Epstein's financial story becomes opaque. He claims to be a hedge fund manager who only works for billionaires. He claims exclusivity, discretion, brilliance. But there are no public records, no client lists, no SEC filings, no verifiable explanation for his wealth. Yet the assets accumulate. A Manhattan mansion worth tens of millions, a private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, multiple private jets, homes in Florida, Paris, and New Mexico. This is not hidden wealth, it is conspicuous. And in any regulated financial system, unexplained wealth at this scale normally triggers scrutiny. In Epstein's case, it does not. That silence becomes the first warning sign. By the early 1990s, a pattern begins forming around Epstein. Teenage girls, some as young as 14, are recruited under nearly identical circumstances. They are offered money for massages.
They are told no sexual activity is required. They are paid in cash. What follows is exploitation. Victims later describe being pressured, groomed, and abused. Many are instructed to recruit other girls. The structure repeats. This is not rumor. It is sworn testimony, police reports, civil filings. Multiple victims, unknown to each other, describe the same process. That consistency matters. In criminal investigations, patterns like this are rarely accidental. They are operational. And by the late 1990s, law enforcement is aware of it. So the question is no longer whether Epstein was abusing minors. The question becomes, why was he still free to do so? In 2005, the Palm Beach Police Department opens a formal investigation. This time, the evidence is extensive. Detectives identify dozens of underage victims. Statements corroborate one another. Physical locations match. Payment methods align. The police recommend multiple felony charges, including sex trafficking of minors. This should have ended everything. Instead, the case is transferred to federal prosecutors, and then something unprecedented happens. In 2008, Jeffrey Epstein is offered a non-prosecution agreement. It is one of the most controversial plea deals in modern U.S. legal history. Under its terms, Epstein avoids all federal charges. He pleads guilty to 2 minor state offenses. He serves 13 months, mostly on work release. His co-conspirators receive immunity. Victims are not notified in violation of federal law. This is not routine. Legal scholars later describe the deal as extraordinary, irregular, and potentially unlawful. The agreement effectively ends the federal investigation before it begins. At the center of the decision is U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta. Years later, Acosta reportedly tells colleagues he was informed Epstein belonged to intelligence. That statement raises an obvious question. Intelligence for whom? There is no public answer, and that absence matters, because once the deal is signed, Epstein's exposure collapses overnight. The justice system does not fail here. It withdraws. After his release, Epstein does not retreat. He expands. Despite being a registered sex offender, he travels internationally. He hosts guests. He continues recruiting young women. Flight logs later confirm visits from powerful individuals. Calendars document meetings. Photographs place him in elite circles. This is not guilt by association, but it is access after conviction. And access at this level is never accidental. No major institution intervenes, not banks, not regulators, not law enforcement. Epstein's operation continues for another decade, which raises the next question: how many opportunities were ignored? Despite intimidation and settlements, victims continue coming forward. One of them is Virginia Giuffre. She alleges trafficking across international borders, abuse by Epstein, abuse by associates. Her claims are detailed, consistent, supported by travel records. She is not alone. By the late 2010s, dozens of accusers have emerged. Civil cases reopen. Media scrutiny intensifies. Public pressure builds. For the first time, Epstein's protection begins to fracture. In July 2019, federal prosecutors in New York arrest Jeffrey Epstein. This time, there is no plea deal. He is charged with sex trafficking of minors, denied bail, detained at the Metropolitan Correctional Center. For the first time in decades, Epstein is facing a public trial. And that trial threatens something far larger than one man. Because testimony would not stop with Epstein. It would map his entire network. The world waits. On August 10th, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein is found dead in his cell. The official ruling: suicide. But the circumstances are deeply irregular. Guards fail to check on him. Cameras malfunction. His cellmate is removed. Suicide watch is lifted. The Department of Justice later confirms systemic failures. No matter what one believes about his death, one fact is unavoidable. Epstein never testified. He never faced trial. Many names were never called. And with his death, accountability narrowed dramatically. Since Epstein's death, thousands of documents have been unsealed. Banks have paid fines for facilitating transactions. Institutions have admitted negligence. Civil settlements have been reached. What has not happened? No comprehensive criminal trials of enablers. No full accounting of protection mechanisms. No transparency equal to the scale of the crimes. This is not speculation. It is the official record. Jeffrey Epstein's story is not an anomaly. It is a stress test, a demonstration of what happens when wealth, access, and influence converge. He was not protected because he was untouchable. He was protected because too many systems chose convenience over consequence. And when accountability finally approached, it arrived too late. So we return to the question we began with. How did one man get away with it for so long? The answer is not complex. He did not operate alone. He did not evade scrutiny. He did not outsmart the system. He was accommodated by it. Jeffrey Epstein was not the system. He was a test of it, and the system failed. If this story unsettled you, it should. Because the most dangerous criminals are not always hidden in shadows. Sometimes they are protected in plain sight. And sometimes the truth dies before it reaches a courtroom.